Are you taking the... This is ridiculous. I know everyone says that you guys are inescapable, but this is just stupid.
Five Nights at Freddy's. That's where I wanna be. Five Nights at
Five Nights at Freddy's, the titan of 2014 YouTube horror. The game that started the mascot horror trend and then proceeded to be made into a series of movies, a huge merch line, and even a walkthrough attraction in Vegas, with another one heavily rumored to be heading to Halloween Horror Nights this year. If you've been into horror games for the past 10 years, then FNAF has been pretty much inescapable, with a new game coming out practically every year. In terms of production, it was like COD for indie horror. Only the game isn't as indie as it once was, being picked up by Steel Wool Studios after creator Scott Cawthon decided to take a step back and focus on writing the lore. This is major foreshadowing. This isn't me saying that Steel Wool killed FNAF, as that's obviously not true. Help Wanted 1 and 2 were and probably are the best games in the series, and Security Breach was an absolute hit, making the game 100 times more immersive since they now take place in explorable 3D environments, putting a spin on the original games of the franchise. The problem isn't the change in studio or, development matters. It's simply how popular the game became, and in parts, the fandom being all over the place in terms of opinions when it comes to the lore of the game. Games? I'm still not sure what to call it because it's one long story, but it spans over multiple games and even an entire line of books and graphic novels. It gets very convoluted very, very quick. By all means, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and it's good to have debates, otherwise we'd be complicit to literally everything and a lot of bad would happen. Calling people out on their awful antics is a way of life. It's called discipline. However, there's calling people out and then there's being toxic. Since a lot of the original lore wasn't actually set in stone, but rather theorized by the community, especially this guy, people were always arguing on whether or not something would make sense in the canon of the game, ending up in people receiving death threats and actual fights breaking out sometimes. This is how ruthless the fandom was, and somewhat still is. It's not quite as bad today. Is this me saying the fandom single-handedly killed FNAF as a franchise? Absolutely not. They are not strong enough to do that. I need you to understand I'm saying this very, very loosely here, and that I'm going to explain what I mean when I say this, but it was a joint effort between the fandom and Scott Cawthon, because nobody knew what the game was about. In the early days, we had to jump through hoops to figure out what the hell was going on in terms of the lore, essentially reading an AO3 tags list worth of fan theories that Scott basically just gave a thumbs up to. The man didn't write any of the lore himself, he just went, yeah, that sounds about right. Pretty cool if you ask me. And then he made it canon. Why do you think the second movie is just FNAF Takes Manhattan? It's because there's so much lore, but at the same time, there's fuck all lore. Because we don't know what's real and what's not at this point. Retcon after retcon after retcon, and we're back where we were in 2014 when the first game came out. Scott's in a constant loop of going, yeah, that was cool back in 2014. But it kind of sucks now, so let's just change a vital part of the lore that was super convoluted to some shit like Remnant. I'm so out of the loop with the lore now that I don't even know if it's Elizabeth Afton or Emily Afton, and whether or not they're Circus Baby or Ballora. It's a giant spaghetti of names that make zero fucking sense, and that doesn't even matter because the movies didn't stick to them. Mike Schmidt is Mike Schmidt, not Michael Afton. The only lore I know about now is, unironically, that Edwin made the Mimic, but I don't even know what the fuck the Mimic is because I didn't care to read the 3 trillion books Scott put out. It's so overcomplicated that it's killing the franchise as we know it. The movie is actually something I want to come back to real quick because I'm still kind of conflicted. I understand that they had to change some of the lore to accommodate to viewers that aren't familiar with the franchise, but the way that they went about it was kind of strange. Having Vanessa act as the phone guy for 3/4 of the movie and having her being William Afton's daughter was definitely a decision that they made. And having the animatronics be more friendly and only attack Mike in the dream sequences was definitely another decision that they made. But I guess it kind of makes sense because Abby's a child, so they're not exactly gonna turn someone into giblets around her. Plus, the film was a PG-13 made by Blumhouse. And, that's all I have to say. Blumhouse are literally the slop creators of the horror industry, pumping out Insidious after Insidious, and more recently, Megan after Megan. And I can honestly see this happening to FNAF. We're so fucked when it comes to the FNAF movies, I'm so sorry.
What's going on? Why don't they like it? We spent $250 million on this!
Anyways, back to the death of the franchise. Let's talk about the new game, Secret of the Mimic. Is it even called Secret of the Mimic? Yeah, it is called Secret of the Mimic. I'm gonna talk very loosely about this game because I honestly don't really know much about the lore regarding Edwin and the Mimic. As I said, I know that Edwin made the Mimic because of that god-awful song, but I haven't read any of the books, nor do I really care to, so I'm completely lost when it comes to knowing anything of actual substance. This is an awful idea from the devs because whilst yes, it's the start of a new story in terms of the main line of games, nobody fucking cares? Who is Edwin? What is the Mimic? Where are the original animatronics that we know and love, and how do they tie into Edwin? I get that the game is going to explain that, but as someone who's been a slightly above casual fan of the series since I was 12, fuck, I'm old. There's no real reason for me to play the game, because to me, it doesn't look like FNAF. I remember the trailer coming up in the PlayStation State of Play or wherever it was showcased. It might have been Summer Games Fest now that I think about it. I can't actually remember. And I remember mostly not immediately clocking that it was a FNAF game. I ran to my friends and I was like,
what the fuck is this piece of shit?
It's gonna massively impact the future of the franchise. Even Markiplier doesn't give two shits about the game anymore. Hell, I don't even think he gives one shit about the game at this point. The community is being carried by Dorco and FNAF. I mean, like John FNAF, not FNAF as, like, itself. It's rough. You know something's bad when the community reacted 100 times better to Springtrap and the pizzeria being put in Dead by Daylight. I'm not saying that this isn't cool. I like Dead by Daylight, but it's literally just a collab, whilst Secret of the Mimic is a whole new game. At this point, I think people are just bored. As of this video being released, there are 11 games in the main line with a 12th in the works, 4 DLCs to these 11 games, some of which being the length of an entirely new game, another 9 spin-off games, 10 tabletop games, what the fuck? Countless amounts of books, I literally cannot fit them all on the screen, there's that many. 2 films with at least a third in the works, and literal thousands of pieces of merchandise. There's so much FNAF stuff that it makes Star Wars look like a morsel of a franchise. So of course lore gets convoluted and people are getting bored of it because we have to take out a loan to understand everything about the game. Either that or watch a 10-hour lore analysis that is instantly debunked the day after because Scott decides that actually he fucking hates you and that you should never even try to figure out the lore because it's forever changing. Give up. Now.